Check it out, Mr. Sand 44 man in a top secret meeting with the president.
What's up, world? It's your man, Mr. Sand 44 man, 55 countries strong, baby. Down here in Cincinnati, about to head myself on home. In about a minute, I'm gonna have the first news conference of the president after the re-election of the presidency. Putting that on. It's gonna be hilarious for y'all, so check it out. Mr. Sand 44 man, y'all. We waiting on the president to come up with his first news conference. We waiting on that now.
This is an NBC News special report.
Closely as to what he says. There's a lot of questions as to whether what has happened with this Pentagon scandal, if that's going to come back to really hurt him in some way. There are a lot of questions as to what did the president know about the Petraeus incident? When did he find out? Did he find out late about what was happening with General Petraeus? And a lot of people are wondering too, does General Petraeus, did he need to step down? And will General Allen, who is now connected to this, will he have to step down as well? Okay, we see the president there, everybody standing up. So let's get right to it.
Please have a seat. I hear you have some questions for me. Let me just make a few remarks at the top, and then I'll open it up. First of all, I want to reiterate what I said on Friday. Right now, our economy is still recovering from a very deep and damaging crisis. So our top priority has to be jobs and growth. We've got to build on the progress that we've made, because this nation succeeds when we've got a growing, thriving middle class. And that's the idea at the core of the plan that I talked about on the campaign trail over the last year. Rewarding manufacturers and small businesses that create jobs here, not overseas. Providing more Americans the chance to earn the skills that businesses are looking for right now. Keeping this country at the forefront of research, technology, and clean energy. Putting people back to work, rebuilding our roads, our bridges, and our schools, and reducing our deficit in a balanced and responsible way. Now, on this last item, we face a very clear deadline that requires us to make some big decisions on jobs, taxes, and deficits by the end of the year. Both parties voted to set this deadline, and I believe that both parties can work together to make these decisions in a balanced and responsible way. Yesterday, I had a chance to meet with labor and civic leaders for their input. Today, I'm meeting with CEOs of some of America's largest companies, and I'll meet with leaders of both parties of Congress before the week is out, because there's only one way to solve these challenges, and that is to do it together. As I've said before, I'm open to compromise and I'm open to new ideas. And I've been encouraged over the past week to hear Republican after Republican agree on the need for more revenue from the wealthiest Americans as part of our arithmetic if we're going to be serious about reducing the deficit. Because when it comes to taxes, there are two pathways available. Option one, if Congress fails to act by the end of this year, everybody's taxes will automatically go up, including the 98% of Americans who make less than $250,000 a year, and the 97% of small businesses who earn less than $250,000 a year. That doesn't make sense. Our economy can't afford that right now. Certainly no middle-class family can afford that right now. And nobody in either party says that they want it to happen. The other option is to pass a law right now that would prevent any tax hike whatsoever on the first $250,000 of everybody's income. And by the way, that means every American, including the wealthiest Americans, get a tax cut. It means that 98% of all Americans and 97% of all small businesses won't see their taxes go up a single dime. The Senate has already passed a law like this. Democrats in the House are ready to pass a law like this. And I hope Republicans in the House come on board too. We should not hold the middle class hostage while we debate tax cuts for the wealthy. we should at least do what we agree on, and that's to keep middle-class taxes low. And I'll bring everyone in to sign it right away so we can give folks some certainty before the holiday season. I won't pretend that figuring out everything else will be easy, but I'm confident we can do it, and I know we have to. I know that that's what the American people want us to do. That was the very clear message from the election last week, and that was the message of a letter that I received over the weekend. It came from a man in Tennessee who began by writing that he didn't vote for me, which is okay. But what he said was, even though he didn't give me his vote, he's giving me his support to move this country forward. And he said the same to his Republican representatives in Washington. He said that he'll back each of us, regardless of party, as long as we work together to make life better for all of us. And he made it clear that if we don't make enough progress, he'll be back in touch. So my hope, he wrote, is that we can make progress in light of personal and party principles, special interest groups, and years of business as usual. We've got to work together and put our differences aside. I couldn't say it better myself. That's precisely what I intend to do. And with that, let me open it up for your questions. And I'm going to...
Can you assure the American people that there have been no breaches of national security or classified information in the scandal involving Generals Petraeus and Allen? And do you think that you, as Commander-in-Chief, and the American people should have been told that the CIA chief was under investigation before the election?
Well, I have no evidence at this point, from what I've seen, that classified information was disclosed that in any way would have had a negative impact on our national security. Obviously, there's an ongoing investigation. I don't want to comment on the specifics of the investigation. The FBI has its own protocols in terms of how they proceed. I'm going to let Director Mueller and others examine those protocols and make some statements to the public generally. I do want to emphasize what I've said before. General Petraeus had an extraordinary career. He served this country with great distinction in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and as head of the CIA. By his own assessment, he did not meet the standards that he felt were necessary as the director of CIA with respect to this personal matter that he is now dealing with his family and with his wife. And it's on that basis that he tendered his resignation, and it's on that basis that I accepted it. But I want to emphasize that, from my perspective at least, he has provided this country an extraordinary service. We are safer because of the work that Dave Petraeus has done. And my main hope right now is that he and his family are able to move on, and that this ends up being a single side note on what has otherwise been an extraordinary career. Again, I think you're going to have to talk to the FBI in terms of what their general protocols are when it comes to what started off as a potential criminal investigation. One of the challenges here is that we're not supposed to meddle in criminal investigations, and that's been our practice. I think that there are certain procedures that both the FBI follow or DOJ follow when they're involved in these investigations. That's traditionally been how we view things, in part because people are innocent until proven guilty, and we want to make sure that we don't prejudge these kinds of situations. And so my expectation is that they follow the protocols that they already established. Okay.
Mr. President, on the fiscal cliff, 2 years ago, sir, you said that you wouldn't extend the Bush-era tax cuts, but at the end of the day, you did. So, respectfully, sir, why should the American people and the Republicans believe that you won't cave again this time?
Well, 2 years ago, the economy was in a different situation. We were still very much in the early parts of recovering from the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. And ultimately, we came together not only to extend the Bush tax cuts, but also a wide range of policies that were going to be good for the economy at that point. Unemployment insurance extensions, payroll tax extension, all of which made a difference and is part of the reason why what we've seen now is 32 consecutive months of job growth and over 5.5 million jobs created and the unemployment rate coming down. But what I said at the time is what I meant, which is this was a one-time proposition. And what I have told leaders privately as well as publicly is that we cannot afford to extend the Bush tax cuts for the wealthy. What we can do is make sure that middle-class taxes don't go up. And so the most important step we can take right now, and I think the foundation for a deal that helps the economy, creates jobs, gives consumers certainty, which means gives businesses confidence that they're going to have consumers during the holiday season, is if we right away say 98% of Americans are not going to see their taxes go up. 97% of small businesses are not going to see their taxes go up. If we get that in place, we are actually removing half of the fiscal cliff. Half of the danger to our economy is removed by that single step. And what we can then do is shape a process whereby we look at tax reform, which I'm very eager to do. I think we can simplify our tax system. I think we can make it more efficient. We can eliminate loopholes and deductions that have a distorting effect on our economy. I believe that we have to continue to take a serious look at how we reform our entitlements because healthcare costs continue to be the biggest driver of our deficits. So there is a package to be shaped, and I'm confident that folks of goodwill in both parties can make that happen. But what I'm not going to do is to extend Bush tax cuts for the wealthiest 2% that we can't afford, and according to economists, will have the least positive impact on our economy.
You've said that the wealthiest must pay more. Would closing loopholes instead of raising rates for them satisfy you?
I think that there are loopholes.
The president holding his first news conference saying jobs and growth is the top priority for him. He's addressing, obviously, the looming fiscal cliff there and did talk about General Petraeus in that situation. We're going to continue to monitor the president's news conference. We'll bring you updates all afternoon.
What to do. Lori Montenegro, tell the woman.
Thank you, Mr. President. On immigration reform, the criticism in the past has been that you did not put forth legislation with specific ideas and send it up to the Hill. This time around, you have said again that this will be one of the top priorities for a second term. Will you then send legislation to the Hill? And exactly what do you envision is broad immigration reform? Does that include a legalization program? And also, what lessons, if any, did Democrats learn from this last election and the Latino vote?
Well, I think what was incredibly encouraging was to see a significant increase in Latino turnout. This is the fastest growing group in the country, and historically what you've seen is the Latino vote at lower rates than the broader population, and that's beginning to change. You're starting to see a sense of empowerment and civic participation that I think is going to be powerful and good for the country. And it is why I'm very confident that we can get immigration reform done. Before the election, I had given a couple of interviews where I predicted that the Latino vote was going to be strong and that would cause some reflection on the part of Republicans about their position on immigration reform. I think we're starting to see that already. I think that's a positive sign. This has not historically been a partisan issue. We've had President Bush and John McCain and others who have supported comprehensive immigration reform in the past. So we need to seize the moment. And my expectation is that we get a bill introduced and we begin the process in Congress very soon after my inauguration. And in fact, some conversations I think are already beginning to take place among senators and congressmen and my staff about what would this look like. And when I say comprehensive immigration reform, it is very similar to the outlines of previous efforts at comprehensive immigration reform. I think it should include a continuation of the strong border security measures that we've taken, because we have to secure our borders. I think it should contain serious penalties for companies that are purposely hiring undocumented workers and taking advantage of them. And I do think that there should be a pathway for legal status for those who are living in this country, are not engaged in criminal activity, are here simply to work. It's important for them to pay back taxes. It's important for them to learn English. It's important for them to potentially pay a fine. But to give them the avenue whereby they can resolve their legal status here in this country, I think is very important. Obviously, making sure that we put into law what the first step that we've taken administratively dealing with the DREAM Act kids is very important as well. One thing that I'm very clear about is that young people who are brought here through no fault of their own, who have gone to school here, pledged allegiance to our flag, want to serve in our military, want to go to school and contribute to our society, that they shouldn't be under the cloud of deportation, that we should give them every opportunity to earn their citizenship. And so, there are other components to it, obviously. The business community continues to be concerned about getting enough high-skilled workers, and I am a believer that if you've got a PhD in physics or computer science who wants to stay here and start a business here, we shouldn't make it harder for him to stay here. We should try to encourage him to contribute to this society. I think that the agricultural sector obviously has very specific concerns about making sure that they've got a workforce that helps deliver food to our tables. So there are going to be a bunch of components to it, but I think whatever process we have needs to make sure border security is strong, needs to deal with employers effectively, needs to provide a pathway for the undocumented here, needs to deal with the DREAM Act kids, and I think that's something that we can get done.
Mr. President, I just want to follow up on both Ben's question and Jessica's question. On having to do with Ben's question, are you
on Lori's question? Do you want to follow up on that one too?
No, you get. I feel like you answered that one completely. Are you withholding judgment on whether you should have known sooner that there was a potential that there was an investigation into whether your CIA director, potentially there was a national security breach with your CIA director? Do you believe you should have known sooner? Or are you withholding judgment until the investigation is complete on that front? And then the follow-up to Jessica's question, tax rates. Is there no deal at the end of the year if tax rates for the top 2% aren't the Clinton tax rates, period? No ifs, ands, or buts, and any room in negotiating on that specific aspect of the fiscal cliff?
I am withholding judgment with respect to how the entire process surrounding General Petraeus came up. And we don't have all the information yet, but I want to say that I have a lot of confidence generally in the FBI, and they've got a difficult job. So I'm going to wait and see if there's any other. Well, I mean, Chuck, what I'll say is that if it is also possible that had we been told, then you'd be sitting here asking a question about why were you interfering in a criminal investigation. So, I think it's best right now for us to just see how this whole process unfolded. With respect to the tax rates, I just want to emphasize, I am open to new ideas. If the Republican counterparts or some Democrats have a great idea for us to raise revenue, maintain progressivity, make sure the middle class isn't getting hit, reduces our deficit, encourages growth. I'm not going to just slam the door in their face. I want to hear I want to hear ideas from everybody. Well, look, I believe this is solvable. I think that fair-minded people can come to an agreement that does not cause the economy to go back into recession, that protects middle-class families, that focuses on jobs and growth, and reduces our deficit. I'm confident it can be done. My budget, frankly, doesn't. I understand that I don't expect the Republicans simply to adopt my budget. That's not realistic. So I recognize that we're going to have to compromise. And as I said on election night, compromise is hard. And not everybody gets 100% of what they want, and not everybody is going to be perfectly happy. But what I will not do is to have a process that is vague, that says we're going to sort of kind of raise revenue through dynamic scoring or closing loopholes that have not been identified. And the reason I won't do that is because I don't want to find ourselves in a position 6 months from now or a year from now where, lo and behold, the only way to close the deficit is to sock it to middle-class families, or to burden families that have disabled kids, or have a parent in a nursing home, or suddenly we've got to cut more out of our basic research budget that is the key to growing the economy in the long term. So that's my concern. I'm less concerned about red lines per se. What I'm concerned about is not finding ourselves in a situation where the wealthy aren't paying more or aren't paying as much as they should. Middle-class families, one way or another, are making up the difference. That's the kind of status quo that has been going on here too long, and that's exactly what I argued against during this campaign. And if there's one thing that I'm pretty confident about, is the American people understood what they were getting when they gave me this incredible privilege of being in office for another 4 years. They want compromise, they want action, but they also want to make sure that middle-class folks aren't bearing the entire burden and sacrifice when it comes to some of these big challenges. They expect that folks at the top are doing their fair share as well, and that's going to be my guiding principle during these negotiations, but more importantly during the next 4 years of my administration.
Tonight, you said that you were looking forward to speaking with
Mr. President, y'all.
in the coming weeks.
Got to get ready to move up out of here, but I'm glad that y'all got a chance to check it out. It's on the air right now. I got you, Mr. Sam 44 Man. Headed back to the D, baby.
I think everybody.
Check it out, Mr. Sam 44 Man in a top secret meeting with the president.
What's up, world? This is your man, Mr. Sam 44 Man. Now, Mr. Sam 44 Man Liquidations.com. That's right. The website, as you see there, is up and running. I told you all that it was going to be out here, and Mr. Sandman is on the real deal with this company. Now, you can go there and check it out anytime. It's up and running 24 hours a day. Mr. Sam 44 Man Liquidations. You can check it out, and as you can see, there's a series of things that you can be able to do on there. So you want to be able to check that out and look into it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's something that's going to be out here, and give people the opportunity to buy up some of their overstock merchandise and be able to give them an opportunity to have, be able to have new inventory coming in. So, as you can see, the website is up and running and ready for you. And I can even accept your orders right now. If you got something that you want to have, so just come to the website and go down here, and from here you can submit your inventory. And once you submit your inventory, all the documents and stuff that you want to have me to buy from you. You fill that out, send that in, and next thing you know, I got you. So like I said, this is Mr. Sand 44 Man, and I'm out here going over to my new website, Mr. Sand 44 Man Liquidations.com. It's going down, y'all. This is your man, Mr. Sand 44 Man, seen in 55 countries. Check it out. Peace.
This is an NBC News special report.